New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. And hello again, dear ones. Dr. Robert with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
And Rev Cindy G right here.
And this is New Thought Today for today, April 22nd, 2025. Happy Earth Day, everybody, first and foremost. Anybody know offhand how many years this is? I don't remember when Earth Day started.
It started in 1970.
70. Okay. So we're at 55. Yep. 55. There we go. That's a good power number.
Yep.
We can take that. Maybe that means this is the year we actually do some work towards healing the planet.
Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something?
Wouldn't that be something? I don't know. We didn't sound too convinced there, did we, folks?
As they say, let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. So let's get back on track here, folks. It's Tuesday. It's New Thought Today. And our special guest today is all the way from Ocala, Florida, the Reverend Cindy Grimes. Hello, Reverend Cindy. Welcome back. You've been with us a couple other times on this program. Going back to the early days, I went back to the archives, and your first appearance here with us was in September of 2021, which must have been like right after we met each other.
Probably. It's been a minute. I can't get, that's hard to believe it's been that long.
Yeah.
There was, a pandemic in between there too. So.
That was the height of it. Yes, exactly. So
a bit of a time warp.
But give all of our viewers a quick recap and a quick reminder. Tell us a little bit about you and who you are and where you are in the world and how you got here, and then we'll get into the juicy good stuff.
Wow, how much time you got?
We officially have 4 minutes left. Yes.
All right. So I come from the sunny state of Florida. I live in North Central Florida in Ocala, and I have a pulpit ministry in Ocala, Florida that is a little bit different than a lot of traditional ministries. And I have also a focus ministry. And so what we're doing a little bit differently in Ocala is using that idea of being a center for spiritual living, kind of like a community center. So it evolved out of COVID and not being able to do things quite the same way that we did. And of course, coming back, we were at a skeleton of what we had been. And so it was a good opportunity to kind of recreate ourselves. And so every week is a different focus. We have our themes. Sometimes we go along with the themes from home office. Sometimes we make up our own. But the first week of the month, we focus on spiritual practice. So you may come in on a Sunday morning and it could be feng shui, it could be conscious breathing, could be a sound bath. Any number of things, but it's interactive. And second week, we call that Super Second Sunday. That is our most traditional Sunday morning service with the music and usually myself or someone doing a talk. Third Sunday, we do circle conversations. So I take the topic at hand and pick out maybe 3 or 4 questions. I do a short overview and we break out into small groups and everyone discusses those circle questions. And it's not really a discussion. It's more like, here's the topic. let's hear from your perspective and your perspective and your perspective. And so it broadens everyone's understanding of what we're talking about. And then the fourth Sunday, our focus is on building the beloved community. And so it's yes, what we need, right?
Yes.
What we need. And so that's more of a like a podcast type format where myself and other folks will come and just have a conversation so people can be involved or not, because most people are used to going to church and sitting and being fed. All right, like sit
Right.
back and I take care of you. And I really did not want that kind of a community. I raised 3 kids. I got some grandbabies, and it's like, been there, done that. I have fed enough people. Here's the buffet. Here is
Right.
the buffet. Here are your plates. Come and serve yourself.
Yeah, beautiful.
And it's a potluck because you get to bring stuff too.
Nice.
Now,
So,
see, I'm convinced if there's food involved, your participation goes up by 20, 25% easy. Once people know there's food involved, and that's part of what we're doing in Boulder Valley, is looking to try to get the word out that we've got the best potluck in Boulder Valley. And it happens once a month, and you got to come for the service first. But if you come for the service, we've got the best potluck in town, so come join us for that.
Yeah, people love a potluck, and I'm kidding about that. I really, one of my love languages is feeding people. So
Right.
if we have events or things like that, I love to cook and take care of people that way. So that is one part of my ministry. Then the other part of my ministry is in the world of peace building. And I've been trained through the River Phoenix Center for Peace Building. I did a immersion training with them back in 2018 that dovetailed really beautifully with the work I had done in social services and working with organizations within the state of Florida under the umbrella of child welfare. So in one of my lives, I was an investigator with Department of Children and Families, and I was a social worker helping to keep families out of the system. And then I was a trainer teaching folks ways to really protect children and strengthen families. And that was what I was doing when I started the ministerial program. And then I became a minister and met this woman, Heart Phoenix, who, if you know the name River Phoenix and Joaquin Phoenix,
Right.
she is their mother. And so Heart had a peace building center in Gainesville, which is the next town over. And I went and did some training with them, and it put some more pieces to the puzzle of my. And so I've incorporated that work into the work that I was doing with prevention. And so I offer trainings and, actually created a nonprofit out of that called Circle Up Center for Practical Peace Building. And so what we teach, it's practical peace building, right? I'm not trying to broker peace in the Middle East or any of that, but we're talking, what does it mean to have peace in your own life? To be at peace in your body, in your own skin, and to embody what it is to be at peace, so much so that other people feel at home in your presence. And that's the idea. Yeah, there we are. There's our Circle Up. Yeah. And so I've been doing that now since about 2018. And I have a foot in these two worlds, and it's sometimes a balancing act. It's all the time a balancing act. What am I saying? Not sometimes, but all the time. Sometimes feels more intense than others. The juggling is a little more difficult. But and that is in flux now too. That is changing, because when I started the peace building work, I was thinking mostly about approaching systems, like teaching teachers and school administrators the principles of peace building, which to me is number one, emotional self-regulation, right? Like understanding your emotional state and then being able to self-regulate, and then understanding what other people are going through so that we can play nice together. So lost my train of thought there for a moment, but Yeah, so we were systems. I was thinking about systems primarily, like law enforcement and schools and universities and different businesses. And now, with the political climate being what it is, and the fact that a lot of our money for training came from DEI programs, from diversity, equity, inclusion programs. So all of that funding has now dried up. So there has to be other ways for us to engage our community. And so, I'm doing the visioning and and a lot of prayer work and a lot of meditation to see what the new direction is going to be for this peace building work, and how to continue to share it with other communities, including New Thought spiritual communities. So this is my spiritual activism,
Yeah.
is teaching people how to really be a beneficial presence in the world,
Yeah.
beyond thoughts and prayers, which we know we all need, right? But where the rubber meets the road,
Mm-hmm.
in those difficult
Mm-hmm.
conversations, in those difficult relationships, when a conflict comes up, how do we not deny it, not run the other way, but look at it and say, I see you, I know what this is, and I'm not afraid. Or maybe I am a little afraid, but I'm going to have some courage and walk toward the
Mm-hmm.
situation, go through
Yeah.
it, knowing that we're going to come out on the other side stronger. So that's what I teach.
Yeah, and you make a great point in the system or the systemic way of things, if you will, working with systems, and because it is very apparent that all these systems pick an environment, whether it's your physical body or the town you live in or the global uh, atmosphere, if you will. There are systems that always work together. There's no system working isolated. And so the ability to teach peace and to highlight the interrelatedness of systems, there has to be a peaceful coexistence and relationship for these systems to work properly and things not to be left out, if you will. And I think uh, this idea of systems is being highlighted very succinctly right now, because as you were saying about your some of your funding, as these DEIB programs start hitting these different areas of our lives, we see how they begin not only to slow down or collapse, we begin to see all of the other systems or things that they're connected to. Like, um, there's the big thing now about the money being taken away from Harvard, 2 billion plus whatever the number is. But what they failed to mention is the interrelatedness of the person who did some of the early DNA sequencing, came out of that program. The person who is very sharp and one of the key people in gene CRISPRing, and people come out on different sides, but these people came out of that program doing to help humanity. And so now those things are going to be lessened because we don't understand the relationship of systems and peace and coexistence of systems. So I love that, and I applaud you for that work. Especially being from Florida, and understanding you and Ocala and Gainesville, I understand those areas very, very well. So yeah, so I applaud you on that for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess it's what I was born to do. I'm born under the sign of Libra, which is the peace builder. And, it never fails. I go to one of these peace builder immersions, and I really did not believe much or think much about astrology. And always half the room is full of people born in October under the sign of Libra. It's really fascinating. But beyond that, I'm the intersectionality of a few things, right? I am a brown skinned Latina woman. So there's that part of my life, and I've been my family is all law enforcement. My father was a police officer. I married an officer whose father was also a police officer. Two of our kids went into law enforcement. And so there's all of that kind of, I don't know, mix of things in there. And it's really, you know, I love police officers. I've loved these folks. I love people who are running toward the danger while everybody else is going the other direction. So many of our first responders, you know, people who will put their own lives on the line for others. And so all of the discord and the conflict that is going on between Black and brown people and law enforcement hits me in a really deep way. And I think every time a law enforcement officer abuses their power, steps out of line, it puts a big target on the backs of people that I love.
Right.
That's one aspect, right? And then there is the very real prejudices that you know that happen between and among people. So, you know, one of the gigs I loved them. What was that?
Oh yeah, no, I was just going to say, you know, you were talking about law enforcement and first responders. When they stand in their wholeness, they are the epitome of service and sacrifice, which you know is what anything that's worth its metal, I believe, is built on: service and sacrifice. So you know, that needs to be uplifted more.
Absolutely, but it needs to be done well. It needs to be done with integrity. Because the police officers that I knew growing up were, like you said, they were civil servants. They were there to protect and serve. Now you find a lot of people who are in it to, pardon me, but kick ass, you know, and like they like to go in with the big ram thing, and you know, like it's a different mindset. You know, it's like people are your community has become enemy combatants. It wasn't like that before. And it's not all like that now. I don't want to give that impression. There's still lots of just good-hearted, really service-oriented people that are in law enforcement. You know, I like to think my family's among those.
Unfortunately, traditional media has a tendency to overplay, from my opinion, when a bad apple is spoiling the bunch, as it were, and not truly. And that's the wrong way to say it, because I agree. There's so many good people in law enforcement, and it is about protect and serve, and it is keeping the peace, and it. I can only imagine the level of work to be a peacekeeper, surrounded by, well, maybe not surrounded by, but we recognize that element of misuse, that element of mistrust, that element of abuse is there within the organization that should be revered, but gets a lot of bad press. It's I'm interested what it's like to be a peacekeeper in those realms.
Yeah,
it's challenging. You know, it's challenging, and you know, we teach oneness, right? That is the core of what we teach in New Thought, and yet our human experience doesn't feel like that.
Right.
And there are people who don't want to feel like they are one with others. You know, I mean, I knew people that worked in prison, you know, prison guards and administrators and stuff. And it's like, don't tell me I'm one with these people. I don't have anything in common with these, you know. So there's that kind of hierarchies. And that's part of, I feel like, my work as a peace builder is to dismantle those hierarchies. That's why the nonprofit is called Circle Up. Because when you sit in a circle, you know, we're all human beings. Everybody's seen, everybody's heard, everybody is appreciated, everybody's, you know, voice is part of the circle and their perspective. So I think that's very important for me.
Right.
And the paradigms that we are living in right now. And I see hierarchies everywhere. And I'm always trying to bring people back to that very human, the things that make us more the same than different, and the ways that the things that we have in common. And sometimes, like I said, people don't always want to hear that. In spiritual settings, it goes over way better than it does, at a school,
Right.
or in a prison. And I've done that work too.
Well,
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I early in my career, I did prison work right there close by you over in McClenny. So I worked at Rayford and McClenny and Stark, and there were about 7 prisons right there, right outside of Jacksonville in that area. And it was, I was young then, and I'm going in to teach classes, and and the guards treated me like I was a prisoner. I mean, I'm coming in trying to create a better environment. So that mentality has been around for a long time. And I think this idea that we have a new thought is being called for more today than a long time. I won't say any other time, but definitely for a long time, where we have to begin to think about things differently. We have to take a different perspective on every system we have, because the current administration, and I don't want to go down that path, but they have put the education, the political, the news and publications, you name the system, it is under attack right now. And so we have to have a new thought about what this means. I mean, the Constitution itself is under attack. And so as new thought ministers and practitioners, we have to be examples, I believe, of showing the way of what it means to think differently, to think newly, to have a perspective where everybody can get along, where we respect all life. And so we got our work cut out for us.
Sure. I know I am using all of my tools and looking for more because this is, it's distressing. It's really, really distressing. Oh, so another one of my intersectionalities is being somebody who is very progressive in a family and the community of conservatives. Like, I mean, way on the other side. And these are people I love and care about. I'm not ready to write off family members. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people can do that, but that's not what I'm about. And so that's part of why I teach and why I do the work that I do, because I want to be able to be in relationship with people who may think very differently than me, and still be able to find that common ground. And can we still love and respect one another, even though we may not believe the same thing?
I think that's a big part of the solution to me, you're hitting on all cylinders, right? We're creating circles of people that are not talking at each other, but talking with each other. We're creating circles where it's safe to be a liberal or a conservative. We're creating circles where it's where people feel they're being heard. Because I don't know anybody's mind that's ever been changed by Facebook. By screaming out your opinions on Facebook. Gave that up a long time ago. But opportunities to, and I think what you're saying is also really, really important, not write the other side off, not write people off. It doesn't mean that we are, it doesn't mean that we're abandoning our values. It doesn't mean that we're abandoning our belief system to plumb the depths of what's going on in our culture, in our society. But we've got to come from it. And again, I'm swinging back. Right? We got to come to it from a peaceful consciousness.
Absolutely.
A peaceful attitude. And And folks, we do have to come at it from the perspective of our partners and our sponsors and our all those folks. So we're going to take a couple of quick minutes here to let you know a little bit more about what's going on at New Thought Media Network and say hello to some of those sponsors. But we've got a lot more coming up with Reverend Cindy Cotto Grimes. Please stay with us. Join us. Don't go anywhere. Hit the like, share, subscribe buttons while we're doing the break. And we're going to come back and talk more about peace building in just a moment.
Are you passionate about media, storytelling, and making a difference? Welcome to New Thought Media Network, where your voice matters. We amplify diverse voices and share impactful stories. Join us in our mission. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to creativity and community, looking for enthusiastic volunteers who want to be part of something bigger, learn, grow, and collaborate in various aspects of media production. Incredible support and camaraderie await you here. Your contributions will help us create powerful content that resonates with audiences and drives social change.
Ready to make a difference? Visit our website www.ntmedia.org to learn more about volunteer opportunities and how you can get involved.
Find our volunteer inquiry under the Engage tab on our website, or visit www.ntmedia.org/volunteer. We look forward to connecting with you soon.
Science of Mind Archives and Library is thrilled to celebrate the gala grand opening of our new home at Unity Village. While we wish everyone could join us in person, we understand that's not possible for everyone. That's why we're excited to announce a live stream option. Tune in to our YouTube channel on Friday, April 25th at 6 p.m. Central Time for an unforgettable evening featuring a keynote address from Reverend Dr. Jesse Jennings, musical inspiration with Karen Drucker, and the spiritual leader of Centers for Spiritual Living, Reverend Dr. Sonny Cantrell Smith, and the spirit of Reverend Dr. Ernest Holmes. Including exclusive content you won't want to miss. Grab your virtual ticket to this amazing event today with a $25 donation. Sign up today at www.scienceofmindarchives.com.
And we're back with more of New Thought today here on the New Thought Media Network. I'm Dr. Robert, my co-host, Reverend Elzia, and our special guest, Reverend Cindy Grimes, all the way from Ocala, Florida. If you're just joining us and wonder what you're stumbled into, well, it's a conversation around peace and a conversation around peace building. And Reverend Cindy, I think that's probably the question I hear the most so often recently. It's really, how can I make a difference? How can one person be a part of a solution when it does appear that and let's be real, we are there is an avalanche of misinformation, of change, of things that we don't. Some people do understand, some people don't. I hear that one all the time. I just can't understand how anybody could think that way. And I really do believe we're all striving to find that place of peace in the chaos that is our lives right now. And so I'm going to throw that to you and let you tell us what we should be doing here.
Well, I think one of the really important things is just even defining what we're talking about. Even a word like peace, like it may mean one thing to you, it may mean something different to me or to Reverend Z. So, that's part of what we do in the first, I have a 12-session curriculum that I've created. And the very first one is talking about, what is that? What does that mean to be at peace? Does that mean that you never argue? Does that mean there's never a conflict? I don't think that's the case. To me, certainly, it's not violence. It never involves violence. But there are even levels of violence. So peace is not just the absence of violence. Peace is being able to deal with the circumstances and the situations of life and be able to stand in your own truth. That's part of what peace means to me. And that's why very specifically we talk about social emotional learning, social emotional leadership, because you have to kind of have that calm center within yourself to come back to.
Right.
Now, I didn't for years. I learned maybe in the past 5 or 6 years that I have a really active nervous system. So it's very, very hard for me to relax and to feel that peace. And I've had some experiences where I finally had that really profound, like, oh, that's what it is. I'm not sure I knew before that. It's like being kind of half cocked all the time, just waiting. We use this idea of flipping the lid, with this being a metaphor for your brain. This is your brain stem. This is your midbrain, your amygdala, and then the thinking cortex part of your brain. And a trigger, something may happen, something that sets you off, and you flip your lid. So I use that metaphor. And when you flip your lid, the thinking part of your brain is no longer online. If you've ever been so scared or so angry that you lose the capacity to speak clearly,
Yep.
right? You don't even know your kid's name.
You.
I used to, when my kids were little, I'd have to lock myself and put myself in my room, and then I would go in the bathroom so I could just have a moment to just calm down. Mommy needs a timeout. I can deal with whatever is going on here.
If there's any parents out there that haven't locked themselves in a bathroom at some point, it'll happen. Don't worry.
So that to me is practical peace building. Is how do you keep yourself, in check when things are happening all around you, when your emotions are going what's your calm, what's your center, and how do you do that? So in this curriculum I teach, the first foundational things is stuff like trust. And I mean, from the inside out, right? Trusting spirit, trusting that they're in this power, this thing that's bigger than all of us, that got us here, right? We live and move and have our being in spirit. So therefore, my being here is not an accident, right? And I know that I have everything that I need to get through whatever's in front of me. And there's a trust, there's a faith that goes with that. So faith or trust in God, and then faith and trust in ourselves, that we have what we need to move forward. And then we can look at the world outside and say, okay, this is for me, or this is not for me, or I can trust this person, or I can't trust this person, or whatever. But trust is it's profound, as is respect. That's another thing. You want to escalate a situation, disrespect somebody and see how fast things escalate, right? Respect yourself. You have to respect yourself, and then you respect other people. It's knowing your boundaries. It's knowing those lines that you don't allow people to cross, and that you don't cross either. And one of those lines that I think is so, so very important is in never dehumanizing another person or allowing the dehumanization of another person. Right. That's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to be careful of.
Well, and and I think for me, the key thing to trust is value, right? In that, if I don't value something, or if there's no, and it's a kind of integral relationship. If there's no value, I don't trust it. Or if I don't trust it, it doesn't have any value. And so this whole idea of how do we value things, whether it's our value system, how we value ourselves, because it gives someone the ability to build trust, to build intimacy, if you will, in terms of really getting to know somebody at a deep level. Because I think at the end of the day, if I don't know you, you're going to have little value to me, and I'm not going to necessarily trust you. But if we could begin to have, as you have in your circles, these opportunities for people to be vulnerable and for people, to build trust. Vulnerability, I've found, build trust quicker and faster and more deeper than anything else, because now I can see my life in your life, or vice versa, or your challenges in my challenge, or celebrations in mine. And so now we have the beginning of things that allow us to connect, to bond, to be able to talk about difficult subjects, because I know we have something in common, and now we can do the dance to figure it out.
I'm kind of reminded that the best time to do this work was 30 years ago. And the second best time to do this work is today.
Is today. Is now, right?
Because they're all interrelated. Yeah, you want to disrespect me, we're going to have a problem. And no quicker way to disrespect someone than to dehumanize them. And so all these various aspects seem very, very intertwined, very, very much a system that it can be easy to push anybody's button. Right? Don't make me push this. Truthfully, only I can push my buttons, but I'm going to let you make me push it. I'm going to give you a reason to, if there's any of these various things. If I haven't built trust with you, if I don't see value in what it is that we're doing or what you're trying to do, if you're dehumanizing and all these various aspects. So we've got to kind of be on the lookout to not do that. It kind of sounds like the golden rule to me, right? And use the principles to come into that conversation. But it would have been best to start this with people 30 years ago. It's a slow process.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing for me. I think people want to see the get rich quick answer, the get me healed now answer, the let's let this all be okay today type of answer, where I don't know that there is a quick fix to what appears to be a complete level of distrust and disrespect between so many these days.
Well, one of the first exercises we do in the workshop is a values assessment, right? So you get a list of 100 values, and I'm going to ask you to pick your top 10. Now you've picked your top 10, narrow it down to 5. Now pick your top 2. And that's what you live your life around. And then there's the integrity of staying with that. And, if you're on this human journey, you're going to fall off. We all do. But at least you know what your North Star is. And that's how you can stay. You can bring yourself back to, like, one of my top values is wholeheartedness. And I chose that because wholeheartedness encompasses a lot of things in my mind, right? Wholeheartedness is courage. It's compassion. It's speaking your truth. Like it's a lot of stuff. Right. So when I do things, and sometimes I get triggered, and I've written many an email. I start a letter or I write an email, and then I have to set it down for a little bit. And then I come back and I'm like, wow, is this wholehearted? Is this really what I want to put out there? And then I delete or else I show it to my husband, and say, honey, take a look at this before I send this out. And he'll call me out. He'll say, now this, I know you, and I know this is not what you really want to put out there. You might want to think about this. Right? I
try to look at those from how would I feel if I got that email? If that was my name in the email and it was where I messed up or where I dropped the ball or something or didn't or whatever, right? But how would I feel if I received that one? And I've probably deleted more of those types of emails than I ever really sent. So thank you. Yeah, it's a great example.
And here's the thing, a novel idea. These emails, I spend countless time trying to word this email just right. I need to send the email, but it's so awkward trying to write an email because you don't know what's going to trigger someone. Now, I may trigger you in person, but I got room to negotiate and navigate that. If I send an email, I have no interaction or no clue of how you received it. So, this whole thing about circle up, this thing about dialogue, because we know people get upset. We know people get triggered. But if I'm in person with you and we're already in a setting to be in dialogue, to be in exchange, it gives me so much room to create trust because I'm being vulnerable, you're being vulnerable. We're working things out. In an email or text message, that doesn't happen. And I think this idea that you have, Cindy, of this circle up, of these ideas of cafes and discussions, and where people get involved and they're not just listening to someone give them instructions, if you will, is how we solve this, or begin to solve it, at least by and that's what builds community, as you said at the very beginning, and what you're looking to do in Ocala.
Yeah. I really kind of honed this working in prison. Like I was volunteering at the men's prison. I went in, I think I shared this when I was on here with you guys before, but I was part of a Toastmaster group, and someone in the prison wrote to our group and said, could we help them get a Toastmaster group started behind bars? It's called the Gavel Club. So that was how I was introduced to incarcerated, like that whole life. And I soon thereafter started teaching classes, and I was doing New Thought stuff. Like I did Mary Morrissey's work and some of our, like a foundations class. I never called it that.
Right.
I just kind of,
Yep.
put a little different spin on it. But I went in there thinking I was going to teach these guys something, like I was going to teach them some skills they could use when they got out of prison. It was none of that. They taught me a whole lot. And what I realized that was the stuff that I was teaching them was helping them right here, right now, and so many profound experiences. Now, that's the same curriculum that I have taught to university professors, that I have taught to administrators in the city of Ocala, at University of Florida. It is the same stuff. And middle school kids. It is all the same stuff. It's the same principles. Who doesn't understand what trust is? Who doesn't want to be respected? Who doesn't feel the whole range of emotions? That's another thing we get into, is how to recognize your emotions and how to use them, how to understand, why is anger showing up? Like, what is the reason? What is the purpose of our anger, of our grief? And how do we use our emotions and not get used by them?
Right.
So that we're apologizing later for something we said or did when we were triggered.
Yeah.
Right. So then there's this my favorite quote from Viktor Frankl: between stimulus and response, there is a space, right? Between what happens and what you do about it, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in that response lies our power and our freedom. Right? So that's why when I write the email, I don't hit send right away. I have to, like, okay, let me put a little bit of distance here. Let me breathe. Let me come back to peace. Or not just email. Sometimes it's a Facebook post. And then I'm writing a retraction, or I'm like, ooh, deleting that,
Well, and again, like you bring up a really good point there, because we have to remember, and especially anyone that wants to refer to themselves, consider themselves, look at themselves as a spiritual leader, we have to remember that everything we put out there is forever. Because even if you delete it, somebody else took a screenshot of it. Somebody else took a screenshot and saved that. So no matter what we put out there, and if we act from that heated ego space, if we act from that wounded space, rather than taking the time to use the principles that we teach, to use these practices and create that sense of perspective before we just go off, that's a demonstration of peace. And
absolutely.
as we've been sitting here chatting, I realized I have a dilemma that I've been facing, and I've actually been writing about it on my Substack. And what better place to run that past a couple folks than the two of you? So we're creating a brand new segment here on New Thought Media Network on New Thought Today. It's called The Hot Take. You don't get much time to think, and you don't get much, and don't take a lot of time to respond, because we're going to run out of time. But I've been writing this Substack series because I find myself in favor of an arms deal with the Ukraine. And how does a peace-loving, nonviolent hippie, New Thought minister actually justify or consider that perhaps the way to peace is through more guns? But if we look at it, selling the Ukraine a whole $50 billion worth of armaments and guns right now might be in everybody's best interest. Thoughts? Z's already got a finger up, so I know he's on this.
Well, you know, I heard something from Alan Watts on this whole idea of peace and war, and, you know, trying to stand solely on one side. And he made a statement that said this. He says, right at this moment, there is a war going on in your body. Your white blood cells are attacking anything that's foreign and that should not be there, that is about to degrade your life. If you tell those white blood cells to cease and desist, and if they would listen, you would not be here. So point was that there is this dance, there's this to and fro, there's this yin and yang of how response and response, or cause and effect, takes place in life, because that is the cycle of life. And it's a hard concept to get our head around if we're peace lovers, but it is the essence of life. And so we have to make peace with that and figure out how to keep it in the yin and yang balance, so that we don't destroy my favorite topic, the primacy of life itself.
Thank you.
Good question, Robert. I think
it's a hard thing to get your head around.
It is. It feels to me like a deterrence. You know, like if you know that this house is locked, that this, you know, that there are people who are going to, you know, defend, then maybe you're not going to go messing with those folks. They have the capacity, right? When I 3 kids, my middle one is the only girl. And of my 3 children, she was the one that she also wanted to be a martial artist. Okay. Like, she decided when she was 6 years old, she said, I want to go to karate. So, well, do you really, I mean, like, how serious are you? What do you see yourself doing? She says, I'm going to do it till I have those 5 things on my black belt. I said, all right. And she has a way, my daughter has a way of carrying herself that people don't mess with her. You know, she can lay somebody out if she needs to, but she doesn't have to. And maybe it's just that confidence, just that thing of knowing that if I need to stand up for myself, I can.
Right.
And I will. Right. But then she doesn't have to do it.
Well, you know, that's the interesting. Okay, of course, now you stepped on a pet peeve, not pet peeve, but a passion of mine. What style of martial arts, if you don't mind me asking? And then the second thing is, the whole system of martial arts is about value and respect and understanding your environment as a fellow martial artist. So inherent in that training the theory is two martial artists, regardless of what system they're in, if they're masters, theoretically they will always end in a tie. Because they understand the holistic way of life. And so because I'm using X and you're using Y, that's okay, because the counters and the parries and the blocks are all in the system to keep that balance.
I don't remember the form of karate,
So
but
I
it was
can carry
karate.
myself upright. I can be up here. Okay.
There is something, I don't remember the quote, you know, but
Love
it's
it.
that we there are times when we are called to take sides. You know, we cannot be neutral in certain situations, because to be neutral is to give over to the oppressor.
Right.
And this is not a time for neutrality. I don't think. I think this is a time for us to stand in truth and principle and be a stand for oneness and inclusivity and love. I mean, love and compassion, that is the magic elixir.
Right.
You know, my training is all around the hero's journey, you know, and you know how the hero, they leave home and they go through all of their dramas and traumas, and they meet friends and foes, and they have their challenges, but they have that moment where they come into their own and they drink the magic potion, they click the shoes together, whatever, they find their power. Our power is compassion. Our power is compassion for ourselves and for others. And so by loving and having compassion for myself, I'm not going to let you step on me. I'm not going to let you disrespect me or mistreat me, because I love me.
Yeah.
Right?
I've long believed that if we teach love and we teach oneness, and if love doesn't stand up into the injustices in our world, then what good is love at that point?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Folks, we do need to take another real quick break, and we're gonna hold that, Z. We're gonna take another quick break, say hello to our sponsors and our donors, but we are coming back. We've got just a little bit more time, so we'll get to our final thoughts here in just a minute. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. Yes. Thank you to all of our organizational sponsors and individual donors. It's thanks to folks like you that we're able to continue sharing these messages, these programs out around the world. Please consider making a monthly donation. Head on over to our website, ntmedia.org/donate. If you've got questions, we can answer them. Give us a ring. All right, back into it on New Thought today. So Z, as we were going to the break, I cut you off. We were talking about what good is love if it doesn't stand up to injustice.
Yeah, and this will be my thought of the day. My father would always tell me, love is not something you fall in, it's something you stand in. We have gotten enthralled with this whole idea of love being this romantic thing, something that you fall into. And that is an aspect of it. But he said primarily, he said love is something you stand in. And I think that's a great idea to ponder what that means and how do you do that.
Beautiful. Yes, yes, yes. Reverend Cindy, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I want to give a tip for conflict management, conflict resolution. In a restorative circle, when there's something has happened and you bring the parties together in a formal circle, there would be a facilitator, but this can be done like I'm a walking circle and something happens with me, right?
Right.
4 questions are posed. Number 1, what happened? So everyone who is part of the situation gets to answer from their perspective about what happened. The second question, what was the impact? How did that affect you? So even if it's me with my husband or a family member, whoever it might be, I know how this impacted me and I will share that, but I want to hear how it impacted you as well. The third question is, how do we fix it? What do we need to do? That becomes a brainstorming session. And usually by the time people are speaking about the impact, that there is a legit pain there, that's where the vulnerability happens and that's where connection happens and people want to make things right. And then the last question is, how do we keep it from happening again? 4 simple things, no matter what is happening in your world, who it's with, what happened, what was the impact, how do we fix it, how do we keep it from happening again? I don't know what's ringing in here, but sorry about that.
Not a worries. There we go.
You strung a chord of truth in this responding. That's what's happening.
I guess so.
And the impact is negligible, so I'm not worried about fixing it. It's all good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Cindy. I know we don't have you on all that often, but I'm hoping you'll come back again and again, and we'll have you on a little more often that way.
I would love to come back again.
Wonderful.
Thank you. You guys so generous with your time and your wisdom, your sharing. I just appreciate what you do on behalf of New Thought communities everywhere. Like you're right on the cutting edge, bringing us things in new ways. And I mean, you're saying I'm so far, but to me, y'all are far too. You're in Colorado, Robert?
Yep.
And Z, are you in Colorado as well?
Yeah.
So I am the outlier, huh?
You're one of the inliers, I think. We need a better term there, but yes, you're on the inside of the circle, and you know that's my final thought to wrap this all up today is we need to build more circles. I don't think peace happens when we have lines of people marching in different directions. I think peace happens when we have more circles, when we have more conversations, when we take the time to sit and really listen to each other, not to destroy, not to rip apart somebody's perspective, but to really, from a more empathetic place of listening to what's real for people. I think that's the way we come to a greater sense of peace together. So, folks, thanks for being with us here today on New Thought Media Network. This is New Thought Today. We're here every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. Stay tuned. Coming up at 4 o'clock today, in just an hour from now, Reverend Dr. Ruth Miller with the Roots and Branches of New Thought. It is a newer program here on the network, and it's a lot of fun learning about so far we're still learning about the roots, but she's going to be moving into the branches soon. So we've been learning about the roots of New Thought. Come join us for that. Again, on behalf of New Thought Media Network, thanks for being with us. Until next time, we wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.